Okay, so we have our simple cards as you can see here. Sky, foreground, background, midground. Let's do a test render. Just want to show with the projection on the simple cards. So this is from frame 1. You can see frame 1. And there's two things that we'll talk about. I want to talk about the sky that we'll see in a second, and then we'll also talk about afterwards the outline that you see around all the geometry. You can see right here, this is frame 1. If I go to, let me save this render. So if you click in the left box right here, you can see right here, all of a sudden you got a dialog bar. If you click over it, you see the same image. This is actually saving your image to buffer. And what you'll see is now if I move to frame 72, you can see as we scrub, the camera is animated. We're on the animated camera. So frame 72 is our end frame. Let me do a render from there. And you can also see, look at that, 3 seconds. We're rendering 2K. We're just projecting. That's one of the advantages of projections, is how quickly they render. And what you can see here, right off the bat, is this. Our sky doesn't make it all the way to the edge. So there's a couple ways you could fix the sky, but what I want to show is actually doing a patch projection. We talked about this a little bit last week, and people seem to have questions about it. And what you can see is there's just this gray area on the card that there's just not enough real estate from our first projection. So the camera move goes and moves over and goes past our real estate. So one way that you can do this is doing a patch projection. So I render this at 2K. I could render this at 4K if I wanted more additional resolution, but just for tutorial purposes. What we can do is use this as our patch projection. So we'll save this image. So File, Save Image, go to our folders. I don't want to be in Source, I want to be in Images. And I've already rendered this, but let me just see if I can find it. Right here. 2K frame 72 sky unfixed. That's what I called it because I want to make it clear what this is, and this is the unfixed version. So we can go over to Photoshop, is go back to that unfixed frame. And what you can see here is exactly what we were talking about. It's a 2K render. They had that gray slop where there's no image rendering basically. And what I did is I just cloned out on a separate layer elements just to fill in that gap. I didn't really pay too much attention to doing something too nice. I just want to show for illustration purposes. And the main reason that what you want to do to have it as a separate layer is you want to actually, I just control left clicked. This is actually all the paint area that I've made. And that's going to be our alpha for the patch, because the patch is only going to patch what we want it to. We can go anywhere on this render, excuse me, but all we care about is this area that doesn't have any real estate. And you can see I went over a little bit. Sometimes it's better to go over your image a little bit just so you don't have this harsh line in blurring. So I just like to give a little bit of slop. You can even see here on the bottom. And then basically all you want to do is once you have a layer that you like, make another layer. I fill this, go edit, fill, and I fill it with white at 100%. And then I just add a black layer below it, Control D, and this is effectively going to be our patch mask, our patch alpha. So you just want to layer, flatten, then File, Save As, put it into the breakout layers, and this is what I call it. So it's a 2K sky patch underscore A for alpha, and then make it a TIFF. And you don't want to save the alpha channel, so it's just a copy, no alpha, and then save. And then just go back in your history, turn off the foreground background, and what you can literally do is you can just save this whole image out flat because all your alpha is going to cut out the patch area. So you go layer, flatten, it's okay, file, save as, breakout layers, TIFF, unchecked alpha, and then right here you want the sky patch, 2K sky patch. And the reason this is important, you want to really make it sure that you don't confuse your regular 2K sky with your 2K sky patch. So click OK, and all we got to do is go back to Maya. And basically what we want to do in Maya is we'll set up a new projection based on where we rendered that frame that we're going to do our patch from. Now you can move your camera in different areas, make a brand new camera. For this illustration purposes, I just moved to frame 72. It's the end frame. You can see we basically scrub laterally, and the top of the frame hardly moves here, so you know you're going to have enough real estate up top. So basically, if we go back into our Hypershade, what you want to do is you just want to make a new Lambert. Call this sky underscore patch. I've already done this, so I'm just going to name this example. And then just start, clicking somewhere so you get off that area. You want to nullify the diffuse. You can amp up the ambient color, and then you're going to pipe through a color. Right click on File, Create as Projection. So right away, projection attributes, perspective. It's the exact same thing that we've done before in our cameras. And basically select the ProjCam that you've created. And for my sake, it's ProjCam 3. I did an example for something else. So go in, quadratic, off, and then just find your image. And then basically now you just do the same thing. Let's go back to the original SkyPatch example. And then now you just fill in your transparency file, right click, create as projection, perspective, camera 3, find your image, quadratic off. What you want to do is you want to invert your alpha, and then find your file, and then it'll be SkyPatch A. Now, the reason I'm not doing that is basically you can see right here I've already done this. It's basically perspective, ProjCam 3. This one's already set up, and you can see right here, if I click it again, I called this patch shader Proj 3. If I wanted to be more anal, I could do SkyPatch. But basically, now you have the element of how do I get the patch with my regular projection. And in Maya, what you're actually going to do is you're going to create a layered shader. Now, layered shaders, for most people, they're a little bit weird, but once you get used to it, it's not too bad. It's kind of like Photoshop. They stack up as layers. And what you want to think of is basically your rightmost element in here is going to be your bottommost element. So each stacking, if you have 3 images, the rightmost is your bottom, the next one's the next layer, and then the next one on the left. Everything going to the left is the next increasing layer. So what you can see here is I've already created this shader. But just for illustration purposes, what you want to do is, I know I have my sky, so I want to put that in first. So what you do is you select the layered shader, and then what you do is you middle mouse click. And you see now I have that plus sign, middle mouse click. Now I can drag that shader over. And then now you can see there's a sky shader. This is the sky shader. And then what you can do is we don't want this one. It comes with one shader in there just as an example. So now you can just click delete. So the little X down here is delete. So now I want to add another one, which that is the patch shaders. Now middle mouse click, drag that over, and now you can see the patch is on the right. So really all you need to do is click it, left click and drag, actually middle mouse click and drag, and then now you can see I've switched the order of them. So again, middle mouse drag moves them. So the patch is going over the sky, so the patch is on the left of the sky. And literally this is just picking up the shading network that we've already assigned to the patch and the shading network that we've assigned to the sky. And literally now it's just assigning that to this layer. But what we can do first, if you want, just for illustration purposes, we're on frame 72. I'm going to right click and assign just the patch. And right now I want to show you what just the patch looks like. So click all these layers. I'm going to Control H and hide them all just so we can look at our sky. And then I'll render. And then here you can see this is our patch, and the alpha for that patch is this. So right away you can see it cuts perfectly compared to now. If you see we have this bar, and if I slide, you can see the original sky from below and the new. So basically now what I can do is now select that layered shader, right click assign to selected, and now render again, and voila. You have our original base sky and now our perfect patch going over the sky element. You know, it's not anything too fancy, but that's basically the idea. And you can do this on any type of geometry where you see smearing, and you can do several patches along a frame range as you like. The only thing to think of is basically where you have your projection set up is where you're going to have it project. So what I mean by that is I know I'm on frame 72 right here. So all I want to do to create that sky camera is Control D, make a new camera, rename it, you know, because now it's going to have no animation on it. So you want just Proj Cam 3 Sky, enter. And then what sometimes I do just to make sure the camera won't do anything funky, I'll set a key on it, and usually I set it to the key to the frame that I've copied it from. And then, you know, sometimes just for, you know, good backup, you can say F frame 72. So you know that that came from frame 72. Animate, set key. Now you can see there's a key on that. And from our previous talks, you know that the Projecam 1 was set from frame 1. And that's basically that for patch projections.